Hey everyone, welcome back to Let's Have a Chat. Again, changing things up because I don't know what I want to do. I'm trying to figure out. This might be more comfortable. Figured out I can move my mic stand over to the couch. I don't know why I had it on the other side. As I put it over here for the video, I thought, why didn't I have it here to begin with? Makes so much more sense. Don't know how I missed that, but anyway. I think I might keep this. I like the couch a little more comfortable. As you can see, my nice cow and chicken shirt. It's the red guy, showing his ass to everybody. Very contradictory, I feel like, to the to the message of this video, because that right there might have turned some of you away. But it's a cartoon. Get over it. This is gonna be my one shout out to Nick Fuentes in this video. I don't agree with him on everything, but I admire how much he doesn't care about what anyone else thinks, and he has his opinions, and he has them. Too many people are afraid to say certain things, or they just care so much what other people think, and they pretend like, well, I don't care what people think, but then they let themselves not do certain things or say certain things because they're scared of what other people will think or what might happen to them. And what kind of society is that? What kind of free society is that if we can't express our most controversial opinions? Not really the topic of today's video, but I just, I wanted to say that going into kind of as it's somewhat related topic to kind of what I'm going to get into. Today's going to be more about faith than it is about politics. I might ramble on a little bit about politics, but the main point I want to drive home is about submission, actually. So I guess maybe that could extend to really a lot of areas, but I'll say this now so you guys can get to know me better. I don't go to church. I profess that I'm a follower of Jesus Christ because he is the way, the truth, and the life, and the only way to the Father, and the only way to spend eternity with God the Father is accepting the free gift of salvation from Jesus Christ's sacrifice on that cross and when he rose again. And I believe that with all my heart, mind, and soul. Okay? I have faith that that is the truth. There's nothing else in this world that I have combed over or listened to or read into that I think even comes close to actually making any sort of sense as the Bible does. But I do have questions and disagreements, not just questions. I also have disagreements, and clearly in how I practice my life, with a lot of modern Christianity and the way it is, I guess, practiced in the church. So, I, from a very young age, have been against authority. Don't mind my fridge going off. Sorry about that. I've been so against authority because it's always one person does something wrong and the whole class is blamed. Like, I was just, it's school. School's where I was taught that originally. And, you can argue, well, that doesn't happen everywhere. It's like, okay. But it happened to me, and it happened over and over and over again. And I never thought that was fair or right or, morally correct. I mean, why? That's just the beginning of why I hated school, right? Because it's just like, well, I'm forced now to learn things I don't care about. And in hindsight, they're hindering and squashing my abilities and my interests. And just making me do stuff I just did not care a single bit about. And then I didn't even do anything wrong, and I get punished. And it's just like, okay, cool. And I have to take it? Yeah? Okay, cool. So, by middle school, I was like begging my mom to be able to do online school. And we talked about it as a family. And I did it, starting actually right before I went to middle school, technically my fifth grade year. So I hadn't even finished elementary, at least in this part of the United States. I'm in Oregon, so that's how we do it here. First through kindergarten through fifth is like elementary, sixth through eighth is middle, and then ninth through 12th is high. Anyway, not that really matters, but yeah. So from fifth grade to eighth grade, I was in online school, and yeah, it just sucked just as much. I mean, there were benefits to it, of course, but I never really felt like I learned much. I feel like the things I learned most were in high school, but they weren't even really like things I learned because of classes. It was more the social aspects, and with COVID and the ridiculousness of the mass psychosis, I guess, of the mass indoctrination of a whole generation. Multiple generations actually, because a lot of the older teachers bought into stuff. Sorry, this is so off the point, but authority has never been looked at favorably in my eyes. And I wasn't a follower of Christ until actually just after my 15th birthday. So I've only been here 5 years in this mindset and trying to be kind of self-introspective. But I was conservative leaning, I would say, ages 13 to 14, because I knew going into high school, my sister had, gone a little bit before me. She's a year ahead of me. And I knew I wanted to go to school because it was, it was a little bit of an alternative, different kind of school. And I wanted to go somewhere that I felt like, I've done the online school thing. I want to kind of go back, and I want to really have a good high school experience and just get ready for the real world and make some friends, because I didn't really have a lot of friends and stuff. I started getting into politics, and I just realized the whole transgenderism thing didn't make sense, and talked to my dad about it, and it's kind of logical. That just kind of got me on to beginning, like, because I felt like I was being lied to, because when I was in elementary, at least, it seemed like boys are boys, girls are girls. But then 5-6 years later, it's like, now I'm hearing stuff like that, men and women can change. And as a 13-year-old, I didn't know for sure. I was just learning. I'm like, this isn't real, is it? Like, I was confused, because I was like, well, is that actually possible? And so obviously, thankfully, my dad is, not a terrible person, and he, said, like, no, that's not how that works. Let's make sure you don't go down the wrong path. And ever since then, I just kind of, I was conservative leaning, right? And then yeah. And so during 2020, during COVID, I just, I was up at my grandparents' place, and I was just, a lot of things were happening to me. And I was just like, you know what? I want to believe that there's a God. I couldn't, I wanted, like, the idea sounded nice, because I was, the past couple months, not because of COVID, but I was afraid of death. And honestly, I got, even being a follower of Christ, I still kind of get nervous about dying. That's a larger topic, but I had such a fear of death, and I was like, what happens? Not because I was scared I was going to get COVID and died, but just, maybe part of that was like raised in my head because of that going on, and then we were just kind of figuring out what this really meant. Because, I was seeing some concerning videos, and like one of the first videos I saw of COVID was some like weird, like, dystopian shit in China, where it's just like these sirens blaring. It was a little weird to me, a little scary. So I'm sure some of that maybe planted stuff in my head, but it was just more about death in general. And when I was up there at my grandma and grandpa's, I was talking to my grandma and my uncle, and they're very religious, and I just like, I want to believe, I do, but I don't. And so they just, and kudos to them, but like, kudos to God, but like, he used them to, speak to me. And he, I literally that night I went in, and I in the room I was staying in, I prayed. I'm like, look, if you're real, please. I want to believe in you. I just don't. And, or to something to that effect. And I think I kind of just like, went, that was kind of the mindset. And then I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to believe you're real. 'Cause like, I mean, if I don't, I don't have any other answers. And then I just started like, I just at that point, like, I opened my heart to the idea and opened my eyes that this could be possible. And then everything started to make sense. Like, and then like that night, I was like, you know what, like, I'm just going to try this. And, and that night I was saved. And everything just started clicking. Everything, like, I mean, there's still things that are frustrating and I don't understand fully and I have perspective issues on, but like, I started looking for God in everything and I started to see him. And there's a lot of stuff where it's like, I mean, I can't even probably recall a lot of it, but like, I know in my heart that, like, there's just a lot of things like, this is too weird to be a coincidence. And it's nothing like super out of the ordinary, not like, like a meteor fell down and nearly missed our house, but like, it's just stuff that's like, okay, this was kind of in my best interest. Really? Was that just a coincidence? Was that just the fates aligning? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. There's just enough anecdotal evidence in my own life that I'm like, it just only reinforced my belief. And it's just like, he showed me. And then you realize logic and science does actually point towards God. Like, it doesn't disprove him. And so, anyway, I mean, half testimony, but just, I never liked authority, but then when God showed me who he is, I just got this, like, I think I've always kind of liked the truth, but like, I just got this, like, I want to know the truth. I mean, that's why I was open to the idea of God, because it's like, well, I want to believe, I don't see it yet. And then it was explained to me in a way that was like, that actually sounds logical. This isn't just some bullshit that people are saying, come follow our cult leader. Like, this actually makes sense because I was open to it. Because if you're not open to it, it doesn't matter how much logic you use. You're just going to deny it because you want to. From that point on, it's like, well, you start reading the Bible and you start reading what God says and what Jesus commands you to do and the 10 Commandments. And it says, thou shalt not have, any false gods or have a God, before the one true God. And so what does that mean? Because it's like the first commandment, right? And it means, like, do not idolize anyone or anything above the real, true, living God, who is the truth, who is love, who is mercy, who is compassion, who is everything good. He exists outside of time. He is eternal. He is, like, don't worship anyone. Don't idolize anyone. Be for God and have him at the center of your heart and your mind and your soul. And I struggle because I fuck up a lot. I do a lot of bad things, and I'm really trying to correct my behavior, but there's a lot of things that I am in my flesh, and I'm not making that as an excuse, but I succumb to my temptations a lot. And it's something I'm working on. It's something everyone's working on. And if you say you're not, if you say that you have no temptations, you're just lying. So I have a lot of problems, but he has forgiven me. He has died for me. And I have to accept that gift. So what he tells me to do, I will try my best to understand what that is and do so. And to me, this is where the point of the video is coming in now that we're probably, a good 10 minutes into it. Do not submit to anyone else is kind of the message I get. I mean, I don't know if that specific phrasing has been used by Jesus himself, because I tried to do some research on this. I couldn't find him saying anything. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not very well versed in my Bible. That's something I do need to be better at. So I can't just recall like this verse and that verse all the time. I have like general and kind of like the message. I feel like I can kind of get pretty well from what I've read about what Jesus has said. And I have read the Gospels, and I've read a decent chunk of the Old Testament. Some stuff doesn't stick with me, some stuff does. So, not that I have to justify myself, but I was just letting you know my background. But I couldn't really think, I couldn't remember, and in my researching this, I couldn't really think or see any examples directly of Christ talking about like the word submission. But there are a lot of other parts in the Bible talking about submission, but I couldn't see anything directly from Jesus. And so this comes to the church thing. This is where I think there's a big issue in this country. Because, look, the only thing that will solve all of our problems is Christ. Christ is the only thing. Being rebirthed, being reborn as a Christian is the only thing that can save this country. So, there's people like Ben Shapiro. There's millions of people. I'm just an example of a popular person who, putting Israel first and, doing all these anti-American things and all this, doesn't matter. I mean, it does, but nothing's ever going to get better if Ben doesn't convert to Christianity, and every other person who doesn't believe. I'm just using him as an example. It's not about Ben Shapiro. He's been on my mind lately because he's kind of insane. But I pray for all those people. Not everyone individually, but I'm like, I do pray that people will come to Christ and they'll open their hearts and minds, and a lot of people do a lot of wicked things, just as I have done wicked things. I am not above anyone. I want to make that clear. And so I guess what I'm getting at, and I want to get to my point, which I was trying to be concise about, but that's not me. I'm not concise. If we were to have no other gods before the one true God, we aren't supposed to idolize people, then I don't believe in submitting to another man's will, okay? Now, look, there are laws in the country we live in, and the country we do live in, as much as it can and has been distorted in ways, generally, I would say, is very in line with Christianity in how God actually handles us. Because he's like, I respect your choice to do something wrong. Eventually your consequences will catch up with you. But he respects that you can choose to either reject him or accept him, because that's what true love's about, is choosing to love somebody. You don't have to, but you choose to. And there are very immoral things you can do that are completely legal in this country. Similar to me and how God's like, look, you can make these choices, but they will catch up with you. There are consequences. And so legally speaking, I guess maybe you won't be thrown in prison for XYZ, but if you do these immoral things that are against God's moral law, societal consequences at minimum, if not your own personal, individual consequences with your friend circle or family or whatever, will catch up to you. It will. And then when enough people do that, your society starts to have problems. So the only thing that can fix what we have is Christ. The problems we have can only be fixed by everyone looking inward and accepting Christ and trying to do better and be like Christ. And I don't understand how people can sit here and call themselves Christians. I don't think it's right to say that you're a Christian, but ignore the glaring issue that people are trying to, pastors particularly in the church, are trying to tell you how to live your life, and they're trying to tell you how to interpret Scripture, and not presenting it as though they have kind of authority on it. Now, look, I understand what I'm doing is I'm making an argument. I'm not trying to. I believe what I am saying is right. Of course, I think it's true. Otherwise, I wouldn't be saying it. I could be wrong. Fully willing to admit that. In pursuit of the truth, you have to acknowledge you could be wrong. I do acknowledge I could be wrong. But this is my argument. This is what makes most sense to me, and this is what I believe. I'm not telling you that you have to believe it. If you have an argument that's better and you think I'm wrong, please prove me wrong. That's not what pastors do, or not most of them. What they do is they read the Scripture, and then they tell you how to interpret it, and then they kind of just tell you how to live your life. You must do this. You should do this. As a church, we believe this. As a church, if someone does this in our church, there's gonna be some problems. And I just I think it's completely hypocritical because you're just as broken as me. So why am I taking moral advice? Why do I have to treat you with any sort of moral authority? Why should anyone do that to the pastor? Well, because they've read the Bible more. It's like, okay. So Jesus specifically said to have no teacher but the Messiah. So look at Jesus' life and what he taught. Now, to me, that's like the only thing that matters. And so then you get into some big issues with that because people are like, well, are you saying that the Bible isn't, valid? Are you saying that there's, certain things that aren't truly like the whole? If you're saying that this one part of the Bible is wrong or something, then the whole thing's wrong, and you don't believe anything. And I don't know. To me, I don't know exactly what I believe on that, but I'll tell you this. I believe what Christ said and what he taught. And if anything else contradicts it, I'm very wary, or at least it appears to contradict, I'm very wary of it. I don't understand how people can sit there and just listen to these teachers. I mean, pastor's just another word for a teacher, right? And just be looking up to them as though they have any real insight on morality because they're just as broken as you are. I'm not saying that people can't teach people anything. I'm very specifically saying in terms of morality and the way you conduct your life and the morals you do have. I'm talking about that specifically. And I think as far as I have interpreted, that is what Jesus was getting at. Because he also was talking about not calling anyone on earth father. But I don't think it's a sin to go up to your pops and say, hey, dad, or this is my father. Like you have a father on earth, but you have a father in heaven, right? It's like, don't give any undue authority to humans that are sinful, right? It's like, who is sinless? God. And what did he do? He came and lived a perfect life and died for us. So the only person we should be listening to for morality and how to live our life is Jesus Christ. And so why are we sitting here reading the Bible and then having you tell me how I need to live my life? To me, that seems like a complete contradiction. Really, it does. I don't understand how more people aren't talking about that. Because again, a lot of it, I really don't think people are doing it to really seek the truth. I think they're just doing it because they want to feel like they're doing the hard work and following Christ, but they don't want to. Like, it's so much easier. There's this faux, like, icky kind of Christian world where you go to church, you kind of just believe, you say you believe, and then you feel good about yourself because you go to church, and it's kind of just this big social club, and everyone just pats each other on the back, and you donate your money, and you go once a week, and you just feel good about yourself. You don't really try to actually improve your life. You just, I'm going to church. It's okay. Oh, I helped out with the bake sale. Fund that trip over there to India where they can spread the gospel. It's just like, I don't know. It seems disingenuous to me. I'm not saying that everyone that goes to church isn't a Christian, but it's just like, where's the real like debate? Where's the real discussion? Where's the real intellectualism? We must scrutinize these questions that we have. We must like ponder these things, and we must discuss these things. That's what fellowshipping to me is we must discuss these things. I should give my argument, you should give yours. And when you present a better argument with more facts and more logic and more sound reasoning, then I can really consider what you have to say. If you just stand up there and say, this is what this means, and you must agree, otherwise, oh well, we don't want your kind at our church. It's like you're a heretical, terrible Satanist. It's just like, I mean, I haven't had those specific words said to me, but like, I've had a youth pastor when I told him I was leaving the youth group back, years ago. He's like, I don't think you should be leaving church, or at least not going to find another one, because you're not really a Christian if you don't go to church. I mean, that's at least kind of what I don't remember if that's explicitly what he said, but it's definitely what he implied. If that's not explicit what he said, but he might have explicitly said that. It's been so long. I don't have the messages anymore, but I'm just like, okay, That, do you not understand that the relationship with Christ and accepting him as your Lord and Savior and accepting the free gift and having faith alone is what saves you. Faith alone is what saves you. And I'm just so sick of it. Like, I don't want to be told how to live my life because there are so many different ways to live life. Why is it that one person's way is the right way? As long as I do not infringe on the rights of others and I do not disobey God's moral law, which we all do, but if I actively, do my best not to do that, and when I do, I repent of my sins and I go straight into the Lord's arm and I ask him to forgive me and to help me do better and to help me be a stronger Christian and, furthering his kingdom and his glory, he's going to forgive me. That's how great and merciful our God is. So, beyond that, like, my point is, that's it. Like, I don't think there's more to it. Like, I don't think there has to be. I don't really know that I believe that there's just like some grand purpose to this life. Like, oh, we must build 10 million big cities. Like, I sorry, that's not to discount what God has in store. Like, obviously, it's grand that life exists at all, and that, he wants more people for his kingdom and for his glory and for all that. But, like, I guess what I'm getting at is I don't think New York City needs to exist. I don't think, building rocket ships is like, cool, I guess. I don't necessarily think there's anything strictly immoral about those particular pursuits, but I also don't think they're necessary. And I get it, Christians live with non-Christians, so the world will continue. But it's just like, I see a lot of this from Christians. It's like, you're just telling you how to live your life. A lot of Christian influencers. And I'm not trying to do that with these videos. I'm just trying to point out my issues and see where it's logical. Like, you can live your life how you want. But to me, it seems wrong to go to church and just kind of listen to what the pastor says, kind of just do it. Don't really internalize and debate that stuff for yourself and all the questions you have. You just kind of leave that to someone else to kind of tell you what to think. Then you're just like putting the responsibility of faith on someone else. That's the way it looks to me. And a lot of people do that with politics. It's the same thing. It's just like they don't have time. But it's like, faith is the most important thing. And, it's personal. It's about having the relationship with Christ. And you can't force someone to just be a Christian. It's like they have to genuinely, they can say it all they want, but it doesn't make it true. And so I hope my point is coming across. I hope I'm explaining it the best I can, I feel like I am, but I've had this conversation with so many people and they think that I'm just not a Christian. And it's like, no, I believe in Jesus with all my heart. I have faith. Now, my faith isn't always the strongest. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying, and he's forgiven me, and he loves me, and he loves everyone. I think there's real problems with the way church is run systematically, and I think those are against the will of God. So I want to point it out. And if I'm wrong, I would love to hear, again, some good, solid reasoning. Because genuinely, I am in pursuit of the truth. I mean that. There's no ulterior motive here. I'm just a kid, living with my parents, trying to save money for a house. I'd like to have a family one day. I just want some basic stuff. I want to create more people for God's kingdom, for his glory. I'd love to share the goodness of life with the next. I want to help create the next generation and share his glory with them. And that's that's what I'm interested in life. But also, in pursuit of the truth, I feel like I need to speak up when I see that there's problems. But everyone's just like, it kind of does seem like a cult. They just kind of attack you if you don't agree with them. It's like, well, but the whole point of being a Christian is to look inward and to question and to ask the big questions. And not everyone's going to be like an intellectual and have all these like philosophical extreme. Like, I get it. Some people, that's not their focus in life. But you still have to ask the question. It's like, okay, well, what is this life? How did I come here? I'm gonna die at some point. So what does that mean? And then you have to kind of make a decision. Are you for God or are you against God? Are you are you going to accept him or are you going to deny him? But beyond that, it's just like, okay, some people don't want to have those intellectual discussions, but it's just like, I'm not saying you're not a Christian if you don't do that, but you should be asking some questions. But I think most of us have the capacity to do so, and I think it's imperative that we think about things, and at least we're responsible for our own faith. Don't just put it on going to church. Don't just put it on the pastor reading you stuff and telling you what to think, and that's somehow good enough. You need to have faith, and it needs to be personal. You need to be praying, and you need to be communicating with the Father, and trying to listen and trying to hear him. A lot of this world is putting off that responsibility on other people and not taking accountability. And then it's just like, I'm the one who's being told that it's actually backwards, and that I'm the one who's not willing to, put in the time and effort, and I'm not a real Christian because I don't want to go waste my time at church being told what to think and how to act. Because that's not what it's about. It's about fellowshipping and spreading and making disciples and spreading the good word. And it's like, actually I had an interesting question from my sister, and I don't know exactly how I feel about it, but like, what about in the days when, not everyone just had a Bible? And it's like, well, you had someone going around and kind of teaching things, I guess. I don't have a fully formed opinion on that necessarily, and I'm not a very good, big history buff in a lot of ways. But to me, it would seem like, okay, well, there probably weren't a lot of people who could read and write, so it's like, fine, someone was going around reading the Bible and sharing the account of Jesus, but I don't think it was to go around and tell people what to think and how to act. I mean, in part, kind of, I guess, but more so because, they were sharing the life of Jesus. So it's like, Jesus is telling you how to live and how to act, but in sharing that he is the way, the truth, and the life, it's like, they're not, it's such a, I don't know, to me, it's such a different, like, space. It's such a different question at the early stages of that as to now, because everyone can access a Bible. Maybe not everyone can read them, but, like, in America and a lot of the English-speaking world, well, and many other languages, obviously, but, like, people have access to Bibles, and a lot of people can read, most people can read, or there's some alternative. It's just very accessible, and so I don't think it was less personal back then, but we can all investigate the truth, and what the Bible says. It's at our fingertips. So it's like, I think the circumstances definitely are different, and so that the approach is different. But I'm sure there was still corruption going on back then. Corruption's what killed Jesus. The imperfectness of us human beings is what ended up killing Jesus, because he was spreading the truth. And he was the truth. He is the truth. I don't know. That's kind of a difficult one. I don't know how to really come up with a great answer, because I'm still a little unsure on some of that. But what I will say is I feel very strongly, based on what Jesus has said, and we are not to submit to anyone but God and his moral authority. So why do people keep doing it every Sunday? It's just, to me, it just seems like another false gods thing. I would sincerely love someone to make an argument that actually makes sense. But a lot of the submitting stuff comes from Paul, and Paul's very legalistic, very, you must live this way, you must do this, and it's just like, I don't necessarily think that's the case. I don't know that everything he said is wrong. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just saying that there's a lot of things that he teaches that to me seem like a contradiction of what Jesus was teaching about. I don't know. I would really be interested to hear your thoughts, because this is a very pressing issue. A lot of people just think it's like, well, you're just not a real Christian. It's like, look, yeah, I don't fellowship as much as I'd like to. I really would like to fellowship more. I'd like to have these interesting discussions with people who are kind of at the same pace as me, or above, or below, or whatever. I want to have these discussions more. But just because I don't have them every day at this hour doesn't mean I'm not a Christian. Just because I don't go to a certain building, every week doesn't mean I'm not a Christian. And I'm getting tired of certain people telling me that, because it's like, look, I feel like, and again, it's not a pissing contest. It's not about people who's better, but it's like, I feel like I'm genuinely in the pursuit of truth. And I feel like there's a lot of glaring problems with the people who call me out. Again, everyone has their issues, but it's just like, there's some things I'm like, okay, well, you're calling me out, but then it's like, what about what you're doing here? And all I'm saying, man, is take responsibility for your faith and, stop putting it on someone else. And then we should stop giving pastors this authority that they don't have, and stop treating them like they're God, and to intercede and, make judgments where they have no place to do so. I mean, I guess I'm just kind of repeating myself at this point, but seriously, please, someone explain to me how I'm wrong about this. I mean, and not to make it about how I'm wrong about it. It's just like, but please, I mean, if there's something I'm missing, please try to explain it with grace. Like, look, I say this in love, genuinely. I just think it's unbiblical. I think it's wrong to blindly follow and not think for yourself and not take your faith personally, to just hand it off to someone else. And I don't think it's a sin to not go participate in these social clubs that pat you on the back, and that you only do your good deeds just so everyone who's participating will pat you on the back and will tell you what a good job you're doing. It's like, you really need to face your demons, and you really need to ask God for help, and we should be in fellowship with each other more often. We should have these discussions. We should support each other. We should love each other. We should serve each other. But serve each other does not mean to blindly submit to another man or another woman. It's just, that's not what that means. I think that's kind of all I have to say. Please present another argument. I'd really love to hear it. Please be kind and courteous. Or don't. I mean, you're free speech, whatever. If you want to yell at me because I'm an idiot, go for it. I don't want to try to restrict your speech, but, in the interest of trying to tell me I'm wrong, maybe do so in a way that I'll be receptive to. That's been We Need to Have a Chat. This is episode 3. I'm trying to be more consistent with this, but I'm doing my best. We'll see what comes of this. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.